Pop quiz. What do chronic depression, jealousy, resentment, insecurity, and self-doubt all have in common? The answer? They're all driven by the same mental habit, rumination, which is when we get stuck dwelling and overthinking on negative things. For example, ruminating on your mistakes and failures in the past, which makes you feel hopeless, unmotivated, and depressed. Ruminating on other people's successes and achievements, which leads you feeling jealous and dissatisfied with yourself. Or ruminating on how other people have hurt or wronged you, which leads to chronic frustration and resentment. Unfortunately, no matter how much suffering your rumination is causing, it's not something you can just willpower your way through. Instead, the key to breaking out of the rumination cycle is to understand what's really causing it in the first place. In this video, I'm going to share 3 of the most common causes of rumination that I see in my work as a psychologist so that you can break the cycle and start putting all of the time and energy you spend ruminating into joy, connection, creativity, and the things that matter most to you. Number 1, lack of purpose. At different points in our lives, we all struggle to get clarity on our purpose or calling. The newly minted college graduate who wonders, what should I do with my life? Or the recent retiree who asks themselves, how do I want to spend the time that I have left? Or perhaps the middle-aged person who feels kind of quietly dissatisfied with their life and wants to make a change, but doesn't even know where to begin. The uncertainty around what we should do, our purpose, it can be really unsettling, terrifying even in some situations. So it's not surprising that when we feel this fear around uncertainty, we do whatever we can to get rid of it. We start drinking a little bit more in the evenings to quiet our chattering mind. Or we start shopping more to distract us from that empty feeling inside. Maybe we take up gambling, online sports gambling, to find a little excitement in our lives, which is otherwise kind of boring. These are all examples of what psychologists call defense mechanisms, which are behaviors that we use, often unconsciously, to alleviate emotional pain. And one of the most common defense mechanisms that we fall into, especially in the face of anxiety and uncertainty about our purpose, is to retreat into the past by ruminating, which makes some sense if you think about it. When the future is uncertain, we crave the certainty of the past, however negative. Of course, like a lot of defense mechanisms, ruminating on the past in order to avoid the anxiety of the future doesn't really help us, and arguably, it makes things worse in the long run when we want to move forward. But if you understand this, that one reason we ruminate is to protect ourselves from the pain of an uncertain future, you can use that knowledge to put rumination out of a job. See, the more clarity you have about your purpose and what you really want moving forward in your life, the less you will need rumination as a defense. And while getting clarity on your purpose in life can be a pretty daunting proposition, a really good first step is to spend a little time reflecting on your values. Values are principles that guide and motivate us to be our best selves. Here's a little exercise to get you started. I call it frustration flipping. Think of something really frustrating that happened to you recently, and then briefly describe what happened, where you were, who was involved, etc. For example, had an argument with my partner about the kids and their school that they're going to over dinner last night. Next, fill in the blank. In the moment, I was really frustrated by blank. But really, I think what bothered me most was blank. For example, in the moment, I was really frustrated that she kept interrupting me. But really, I think what bothered me most was that she didn't seem interested in my point of view. Now, take that second part, the thing about what bothered you most, and ask yourself, what's the opposite or inverse of that? So, for instance, in this example, the opposite of didn't seem interested might be something like curiosity or empathy. These opposites are very often our core values. Finally, try to do this exercise several times over time so that you can start to see patterns. And I think what you'll discover is that often the things that bother us most have the most to teach us about what we really value and want. And once you start getting clarity about these values, the things that matter most to you, purpose has a way of showing up almost automatically. Now, if you want a little bit more guidance on how to discover and clarify your core values, I have a free values discovery toolkit, which you can download using the notes below. With that in mind, let's get on to our second cause of rumination. Number 2, fear of failure. Now, some of us have plenty of clarity about our values and our purpose, and we know almost exactly what we want to do going forward. But we still end up ruminating and not moving forward for a very different reason: fear of failure. For example, let's say you're a writer, and a big part of your professional calling is to write. You're clear on that. But now that you've taken on the challenge of writing your first book, say, you find yourself stuck in writer's block, endlessly ruminating on whether it will be good enough, or whether people will like it, or how you're really not cut out to be a writer of books. Or maybe you're a business leader and you have a very clear dream of eventually starting your own business. But as soon as you start making plans to actually leave your company and start your own thing, you start negatively comparing yourself to other entrepreneurs that you know, dwelling on financial mistakes that you've made in the past, and just generally finding reasons to avoid getting started. Or suppose you want to get back into a relationship after your divorce several years ago, but even the thought of dating again makes you anxious. So you find yourself overthinking the process, ruminating on how you're too old to start dating, coming up with reasons why it's better to be alone maybe, and generally just sort of obsessing about how unappealing you must be as a romantic partner at my age. What all these examples have in common is this: rumination is a form of procrastination on moving your life into the future. Now, you might be tempted to think, okay, so in order to make progress on my goals and dreams, I need to stop ruminating so much. But actually, you need to think about it the other way around. If I can start moving toward my goals, even in very small ways, I won't need rumination as much. See, it's a classic mistake to try and think your way out of overthinking habits like rumination. But this is a trap because almost always it becomes an excuse to avoid action and doing something new. Instead, what you want to do is reframe rumination as a behavioral problem, not a cognitive one. We don't think our way into better thinking, we act our way into it. Even very small movements toward your goals and aspirations provides evidence to your brain that you are in fact moving into the future. And once you start accumulating more of this evidence, your brain will really start to believe it. And as a result, you won't need this habit of rumination nearly as much. Now, to get started, I have a little technique I like called the 1% technique. So think of your goal. Maybe it's write a book, start my own business, start dating again, whatever it is. Then ask yourself, what's the 1% version of that goal? If I could take one small step toward it, what would that look like? So if you're a writer, it might mean outlining chapter 1, or it might mean researching how to start an LLC, or writing down a list of qualities that you want and like in a romantic partner. Then commit to doing 1% action each day. And if you get stuck, all that means is that you're not getting small enough. Go to 0.5%. Instead of outlining chapter 1, if that feels too big and intimidating, just jot down 2 or 3 things that you think should happen in the chapter. Okay, let's move on to our third and final cause of rumination. Number 3, self-pity. When you hear the term self-pity, it's tempting to imagine, that one person in your life who is an extreme example of self-pity, for whom it's their defining personality characteristic almost. But in reality, self-pity is actually something we all do, and often a lot more than we realize or want to believe. For example, you're at a meeting at work, a coworker talks over you, and you find yourself replaying the event and telling yourself how it's not right that people talk over me just because I'm quieter and an introvert. Or you find yourself stuck in traffic, maybe on the way to work, late for an appointment, something like that, and you start telling yourself, ugh, I always get stuck behind these bozos who can't drive. Or maybe you're laying in bed after an argument with your spouse, and you're replaying something hurtful that they said to you, and how insensitive it was that, she always defaults to sarcasm when you try to give constructive feedback, something like that. All of these are examples of self-pity. And while self-pitying can feel good in the short term, it reinforces the habit of rumination and leads to much worse effects in the long run. Specifically, self-pity tends to have 3 really negative effects. Number 1, it increases overall negativity in your life. In the moment, reminding yourself of how unfair things are or how other people have wronged you, it's an ego boost. You feel a little bit better. But it quickly increases the overall negativity in your life and makes it seem like nothing will ever go well, leading to pessimism, cynicism, even despair sometimes. Number 2, it erodes your relationships. This one should be obvious, but if you're always complaining and indulging in self-pity, other people won't want to spend much time around you. And if they have to, they'll start resenting you for it. And number 3, it decreases agency. Part of the reason self-pity feels good in the short term is that it shifts responsibility for your life onto other people in the world. But long term, abdicating responsibility for our life is a setup for unhappiness and emotional pain. So whether you struggle with chronic self-pity or just find yourself doing it occasionally, but still more than you would like, there's one especially helpful way I've found to break that habit. Understand that deep down, self-pity represents a need for connection. Often, when we're engaging in self-pity, the thing we're really trying to get for ourselves is compassion and validation. 2 things that happen naturally when we're in a positive, healthy relationship with the people around us. So when we're feeling down, we have people in our lives who support us, encourage us, and help us to feel loved. But if you don't have relationships like that, it's not surprising that you would turn elsewhere to try and feel better when you're down, including with mental habits like self-pity. The implication here is that if you can improve the number and quality of your relationships in your life, even just a little bit, you won't need self-pity as much. And a great way to start slowly improving the quality of your relationships is to practice being more assertive, asking for what you really want, even though it makes them and maybe you a little uncomfortable, saying no to what you don't want, and perhaps setting some boundaries, expressing yourself authentically. To get started, pick one relationship in your life that really matters to you a lot. Then choose one type of assertive communication. Could be requests, could be boundaries, could be expressions, and commit to trying it a few times per week. So asking your partner to take on cooking duties after an especially difficult day, or saying no to an extra project at work because you're already overwhelmed, or sharing how you actually feel about your friend's recent behavior that bothered you. The stronger your relationships, the less you'll need self-pity. And any relationship can be strengthened by practicing small acts of assertiveness consistently. If you want a little bit more guidance on how to communicate more assertively in your relationships, I have another free resource. It's called the Assertive Communication Cheat Sheet, and you can download that using the other link in the notes. Okay, let's review. If you want to stop ruminating, you need to identify and address the underlying causes, of which there are 3 that I see as very, very common. Number 1, lack of purpose. The clearer you are about what you want in the future, the less you'll feel the need to dwell on the past. Number 2, fear of failure. Don't use rumination and more thinking as an excuse for not taking risks and trying new things. Number 3, self-pity. Self-pity is ultimately a poor substitute for belonging and love, both of which require that you have the courage to show up authentically and assertively in your relationships. All right, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this one, here's another video from me that I think you'll really like.